My name is Brian. Some people call me Brian the Dolphin Man. This is because my mother was a dolphin, and my father was a very adventurous Viking. It's a long story. I have the sleek, powerful tail of a dolphin, which lets me swim faster than any boat. But I have the arms and chest of a man, which is useful for things like reading maps and holding a sword. If I had one, today I was not holding a sword. I was holding a very old, very crinkly map. It was a map that my father had left me. He told me it led to the only thing in the world that could help save us all. It was a map to a legend, and I was following it. The sea was my home, and I knew its every secret whisper and angry roar. But this quest was taking me to waters I had never seen before. The map pointed towards a chain of islands shrouded in a thick, mysterious fog. They weren't on any normal sailor's chart. They were called the Forgotten Isles, and for good reason. Legends said they were guarded by strange creatures and ancient magic. My father's notes on the map were scribbled and faded. They spoke of a giant's harness and a beast of the deep. I didn't know exactly what I was looking for, but I knew it had to be big. Very, very big. The fate of all the oceans depended on it. The reason for my desperate journey was a monster, a truly terrible monster. It was a shark, but not just any shark. This one was as large as a mountain, and it had not one, but 5 heads. Each head was filled with rows of teeth like jagged daggers, and each head had its own wicked, hungry mind. It was called the Quint Shark, and it had been terrorizing the seas for weeks, swallowing ships whole and turning peaceful coral reefs into barren wastelands. No single creature could stand against it. That's why I needed help. I needed someone even bigger, and even stronger. I needed a monster to fight a monster. Following the map's strange symbols, I navigated through treacherous currents and past rocks that looked like snarling sea dragons. The air grew heavy and the water felt ancient. I felt a mix of fear and excitement fizzing in my stomach, like when you swim too deep and the pressure builds. My father believed in me. He believed I had the courage of a Viking and the heart of the sea. I held on to that thought as I swam closer to the first misty shape of the Forgotten Isles. The map had led me here. Now the real test would begin. I had to find a giant saddle for a giant I'd never even met. The first island was a jungle of twisted black trees and strange, glowing fungi. I swam to its shores, pulling myself onto the sand with my strong arms. The air was thick with the smell of damp earth and something else, something metallic. Following the map's final clues, I ventured deep into the island's heart. It led me to a massive clearing, and there it was. It wasn't hidden in a cave or buried under the ground. It was just there, a saddle. But this was a saddle made for a mountain, not a horse. It was enormous, crafted from a strange dark metal that seemed to absorb the light, with thick straps made from the hide of some colossal unknown beast. It was bigger than my entire village. How was I supposed to move this thing? It must have weighed more than a dozen whales. I pushed against it with all my might. It didn't budge, not even a little bit. I felt a moment of despair. My whole quest, the fate of the seas, could end right here because I wasn't strong enough. But then I remembered what my father always said. A Viking doesn't just use his muscles, Brian, he uses his head. I looked around the clearing. The saddle was resting on a slope. Above it, a network of thick, strong vines hung from the giant trees. An idea sparked in my mind. It was a crazy idea. It was a dangerous idea. It was a perfect Viking idea. I spent the rest of the day working. I swam back and forth, gathering more vines from the jungle. I tied them together, making a strong rope. I climbed the giant trees, my human hands perfect for gripping the bark. I looped the vines around the saddle and then over the thickest branches, creating a system of pulleys. It was hard work. My hands were sore and my arms ached. But with every knot I tied, my hope grew stronger. Finally, my trap, my moving system, was ready. I took a deep breath and pulled on the main vine with all my strength, using my weight to my advantage. Slowly, painstakingly, the giant saddle began to lift from the ground. With a great groan of wood and vine, the saddle swung into the air. I then guided it, inch by inch, towards the edge of the island. It was a slow and clumsy process. The saddle swayed dangerously, sometimes threatening to break free and crush me. But I held on. Using the slope of the land, I managed to slide the colossal thing down the beach and into the shallow water. It was so heavy it sank immediately, but at least I could move it now. I tied my vine ropes to it and began to swim, pulling the giant saddle behind me through the water. It was like trying to swim while towing a small mountain, but I was moving, and the map had one more location on it, Godzilla's lair. The next part of my journey was even more difficult. Towing the massive saddle slowed me down terribly. I swam for what felt like days, my muscles burning with effort. The water grew warmer, and I could see steam rising from the surface ahead. The map called this place Skull Island. It was a volcanic island, jagged and black, with a fearsome-looking mountain at its center that puffed smoke into the sky. This was it. This was where the legend said the king of the monsters, Godzilla, made his home. I could feel a deep, rhythmic thumping through the water. It was a sound like a giant heart beating. It was the sound of a sleeping titan. I found a hidden cove and pulled the heavy saddle onto the shore. Then I began my search. I had to be quiet, very, very quiet. I moved through the strange landscape, my dolphin senses on high alert. The thumping grew louder and louder until the very ground trembled with each beat. I peered over a ridge of black rock and my breath caught in my throat. There he was, Godzilla. He was bigger than I had ever imagined, a true mountain of scales and power. He was fast asleep, curled up at the base of the volcano. His enormous head rested on the ground, and a thin wisp of smoke curled from his nostrils with every breath he took. He was magnificent and absolutely terrifying. Now came the hardest part of all. I had to get the saddle on him without waking him up. I dragged the saddle from the cove, pulling it over the rocky ground. It made a terrible scraping noise. I froze. Godzilla stirred in his sleep, letting out a low grumble that shook the rocks around me. I waited, my own heart hammering in my chest until his breathing became deep and regular again. Then I continued, moving as slowly and carefully as I could. It took hours. Finally, I had the saddle in position next to the sleeping giant. Using the last of my strength, I managed to hoist one side up onto his scaly back. One strap at a time, I began to secure the giant's saddle. My hands trembled as I worked the huge buckles and thick straps under his massive body. It was like trying to put a belt on a mountain. Every time I pulled the strap tight, I worried it would wake him. I had to slide one strap right under his giant arm, so close to his head that I could feel the heat from his smoky breath. At last, the final buckle clicked into place. The saddle was on. I had done it. I scrambled up onto the saddle, my heart filled with a triumphant surge, but my triumph was short-lived. As if he could feel the strange new weight on his back, Godzilla's giant eyes snapped open. Godzilla was not happy. He rose to his full towering height with a roar that split the air and shook the very foundations of the island. The sound was pure rage. He twisted his massive body, trying to see what was on his back. I held on for dear life, clinging to the front of the saddle as he thrashed. He was trying to shake me off. I knew I only had seconds before he would succeed, or simply reach back and swat me away like a fly. I had to make him understand. I had to make him see the real enemy before he decided that I was it. My mind raced, searching for a way to communicate with this ancient, powerful being. "Look!" I screamed, my voice barely a squeak against his thunderous roar. I pointed frantically out to sea with my whole arm. "Look at the water!" Godzilla paused his thrashing for a single moment, his furious golden eyes swiveling to follow my gesture. And then he saw it. A dark shape was moving towards the island at an incredible speed. It was the quinch shark. It was even bigger up close, a churning nightmare of 5 snapping jaws, each one large enough to swallow a whale. It had sensed Godzilla's awakening and was coming to challenge the king of the monsters. The shark was the threat. I was just a creature with a plan. Godzilla's rage shifted. It was no longer directed at me. A new, deeper rage filled his roar, a challenger's cry that echoed across the waves. He understood. He turned to face the oncoming monster, and I held on tight. Godzilla charged into the water, creating a tsunami that crashed against the shore. The battle began. The 5-headed shark lunged, its head snapping and biting from all directions. Godzilla met the attack with a swipe of his powerful claws, batting one head away. I had a role to play too. From my perch on his back, I could see every move the shark made. "To the left!" I yelled. "It's coming from the left!" Godzilla responded to my calls. We were a team. He would swing his mighty tail to smash one head, while I would spot another, trying to bite him from behind. It was a brutal, chaotic fight. The ocean boiled around them as the two titans clashed. Godzilla grabbed 2 of the shark's necks in his powerful jaws, but the other 3 heads bit into his side. He roared in pain and anger. Then I saw it. The spines on his back began to glow with a brilliant, eerie blue light. A low hum filled the air. "Now!" I yelled, though I didn't know what was coming. Godzilla unleashed a blast of pure atomic energy from his mouth, a searing blue beam that struck the quinch shark right in its central body. The monster shrieked, a terrible sound from 5 throats, and then it was over. The great shark sank beneath the waves, defeated. We had won. Godzilla let out a victorious roar, and I cheered from his back. Together we turned and swam away from the island, riding off into the golden light of the setting sun.